Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by Milo Tree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie. I'm a blogger, serial entrepreneur. My husband, David, and I started our journey with Catch My Barty. Then we built our Milo Tree pop-up app to grow your social media followers and email subscribers. And now we've launched Milo Tree Cart, the easiest tool for you creators to sell digital products to your audience. And we built it for non-techies. In fact, listen to this testimonial someone just wrote me. Susie said, Milo Tree Cart really is freaking easy. I made a product. I got the sales page done. Seriously, you broke a barrier for me. Well done. Now, before I launch into this really great episode about SEO, I want to say if you're ready to turn on a new income stream in 2023 by selling your expertise directly to your audience, definitely go to milotree.com/Black Friday special. This way you will join my very special email list where I will be announcing our offer. And if you are one of the first 20 to purchase Milo Tree Cart, you get an even bigger bonus. So again, milotree.com/Black Friday special, one word. For today's episode, I have Steve Wiideman, who is a very well-known SEO, back on the show, and we are talking about Google's helpful content update. They just rolled this out. What does it mean? We're going to tell you. Steve is going to give you tips on writing content to increase your traffic. So if you're interested in traffic, this is your episode. We talk about how to update your content or write content if you have a tremendous amount of time, and also how to approach it if you don't. So without further delay, here is my interview with Steve Wiideman. Steve, welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. It is so great to have you.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be back again, Jillian. Thanks for having me.
So we are like best friends because we've been talking now for God knows how long. And I'm like, we better record and you're running out of time. So I wanted to talk to you about predominantly this new Google update. But before we launch into that, I have to say congrats on being considered one of the top SEOs in the world.
I've been told that a few times, but I feel like it's more about the actions. Having written a textbook for, now adopted by, I think, 35 colleges and universities, having taught at 3 different schools now for the last 5 years, and having, probably close to 25 years of experience. I don't know that I'd consider myself the top of the industry because I'm always learning and growing and a sponge for knowledge and adapting to all these changes that search engines make. But I definitely consider myself one of the most passionate.
Well, I'm just super happy to have you back. So let's talk about Google coming out with this new algorithm change called the helpful content update. And did you know this was coming? And what is it?
So yeah, they have a whole post about it too, and we can share this in in the video notes and so forth. I think it's really just a breakdown of bullet points that they were talking through what they recognize as being helpful. And what was interesting about this content update, different than other content updates they've had in the past. One of the first was something they called the farmer update that evolved into the panda update of 2011. And it basically said if you have thin, low quality content, that you're probably not going to appear in search results or rank well in search results. And they've changed a little bit of the wording and how they're talking about content. They went from quality now to using words like satisfying experience. Is your content providing a satisfying experience to users? And what I find the most interesting about this update is that they don't really lean into the types of content, the diversity of the media that you have on the page. They don't lean into context. They lean into this experience language that in some cases they had a bullet point specifically saying, do users find what they need without having to search for more information, which I was really excited about because for years and years and years, I've been preaching about the importance of search behavior signals. Are users clicking on our result and staying there, or are they clicking on our result not having a good experience, going back to the search results and choosing a competitor. And what do we think the search engines infer from that behavior? Maybe our listing wasn't very helpful. Maybe they're going to, try testing some other listings that might have better experiences for users, and our rankings, get demoted. And so I was really excited to see this helpful content update because they really expanded upon search behavior without saying search behavior, searching again. And, did they find everything that would have solved for what they were trying to do? And so I love this because now we can take a different approach to how we're writing and creating content, and worry less about quality and focus more on did we solve our visitors' problem? And I love that because now it's again, it's a different approach.
So is it, say, the difference between, okay, I've got a blog post, I need to have a video because Google says that's higher quality, versus maybe I have a video, maybe I don't, but if it's, let's say, something people are struggling with and they don't need a video, but somehow they're satisfied with just how to do this, boom, solve the problem, that then becomes better quality than, and there's the video, which we automatically need to have.
I don't even know if it's about the media though. I think it's more about, let's say 10 years ago, you wanted to rank for the keyword, I don't know, wireless router, right? You're in tech and you're selling wireless routers. You go to a really top tier content writer who charges, I don't know, $1 a word or some crazy number. And what they're going to do is they're going to come up with some really well-written content. They're going to source their facts. They're going to, have all this information. It's going to read really well and be at a college level and be just this amazing, super high quality page of content. And a user is going to get to that page and they're going to say, wow, this is really good content, but it's not helping me. What I really came here for was this thing, right? And so while this content's really good, it's well written, it's clear, it's got great spacing, the fonts and the font size and the color, everything about this content is really high quality, but
right, like it loaded
it's not
fast.
really helping me find what I need.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So when somebody then who is, let's say, a blogger or somebody who is a content creator is looking out into the world and they want to get traffic, how should they think about creating content that is helpful? Like, what would be the steps?
I think it sounds really stupid, simple, and obvious, but I think performing a search for what it is you'd like to appear for and studying the results that already come up, you have to think about those listings have been there for a reason. And some of them are ranked for years and years and years because they've solved the problem. I have a page from 2009 floating out there on title tag principles. If you go to Google and type in title tag principles, it's usually in the top 3 results from 2009, right? That's over a decade ago. But because it was helpful, because it talks about the 3 things you need to get better click-through rate and search results, but it solves for the intent, because I know they don't care about title tag principles. They care about click-through rate and ranking. I solve for the intent of the user by putting that into my title and meta description. Hey, are you looking to rank better? Use these title tag principles, sort of thing, right? I think if users, if bloggers take that approach of looking at the search results to see what the topics and subtopics are that the competing listings do. And by the way, the first thing I'll do is create a Google Sheet. I'll create a Google Sheet and I'll log all 10 of the top ranking pages. I'll even put a screenshot of the mobile search results, since we know 70-80% of our users are on mobile devices. So I can see what their snippet looks like in the results, because mine has to be better if I'm going to be clicked on, right? So, and then I'll go through and I'll have a column for the title, the description, the main heading, the subheadings, information about the images on the page. Does it have a video? What's the video about? Are there frequently asked questions at the bottom? What makes those pages unique? And then you have this big workbook of all the different attributes of the pages that are already appearing. Now your job is to study that workbook and come up with something that includes all of those things and more, and have a unique approach, so that you're not just regurgitating other things that people have already talked about. What am I going to do different? How am I going to differentiate? And this is where it gets interesting, because now you can run some studies. You could use SurveyMonkey. You could go to Amazon Mechanical Turk and drop in your SurveyMonkey and ask 1,000 people for 5 cents, yeah, good content can be expensive, so it's worth the research. Spend the $200. If you're going to make, $1,000 off that page in ad clicks, why not spend $200? So you spend that money and you get feedback, and you ask people, if you were searching for this keyword, what would the page that appear, what content would the page that appear be the one that you would choose, and why? What would you want a page to have? What's important to you? And then what you do is you pay an intern or a data person to sit down and go through and theme each of the answers, right? Oh, they would want X, they would want Y, they would want Z. And then you run a little pivot table in Excel, right? Just highlight everything, click insert pivot table, click OK. No other thing you have to do there. And it'll give you this nice organized list of themes that come up the most often. Oh, wow. They're really interested in how I heat this particular food item that I'm going to create, more so than they are about what type of pan I should be using. So I'm going to focus on this first, but I'm going to use pan as well, since that was part of the feedback. And then you marry that to what you already found in the search results, to the research that you did. And then, keyword tools can help too. I like Answer the Public a lot. I use that probably more often than even other keyword tools, because it gives you, for upper funnel content, fantastic ideas for who, what, when, how, why, and you can dump them into the keyword planner in Google and still get volumes if you want to. But I generally like to start by not reinventing the wheel, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's so great. Okay, so back to this idea of, let's say I'm going to use something like Mechanical Turk, where I can get feedback really quickly and cheaply. Am I showing them like my post or my outline, or I'm just saying, hey, if you were to be looking for best, I don't know, like sleep trackers, what would you want? Like, do I keep it open-ended, or have I kind of written a post and go, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of the search results?
Every keyword's going to be different. I think every scenario is going to have its own way that you're going to look at it. With jacuzzi, we were trying to prove to them that that people really wanted to see price transparency, and they didn't believe us. So we ran the survey just to kind of prove it. So we asked several different types of questions in several different groups, and you can ask the same group of people different questions as well. You could say, of these two pages, which one is the most helpful and why? What's missing from both of these pages? You could do it that way, or you could just start completely before you even start brainstorming what you want to do on the post, and say, I'm thinking of writing up a page around this type of recipe, but I'm curious what I could have on this page that would make you share it and make you feel like this is the most interesting page or helpful page. What would you want to put on it? So I think there's three phases, right? Phase one is that research we just went through. We went through, looking at the search results and studying the topics and subtopics. We went through, Answer the Public. We went through surveying, and then we launched the post, right? And then we study the information that comes in from that. Google Search Console, Bing Webmaster Tools will tell you all sorts of interesting things about search terms that they're showing that page for. And that might draw even more inspiration. And that might show search terms that aren't even on the page, but could be good ideas that you could incorporate into the page or into additional sections and paragraphs and subheadings, that could benefit you. And the third part, I think, is going back and really measuring the results of that. Did you put all those keywords that you're going after into a tracker and tag them, whether it's SEMrush or Ahrefs or Conductor Searchlight, whatever you happen to be using to track those search terms, going back and making sure that page is doing what you hoped it would do. But I think once that page is up and you're looking at the search results and you're comparing yours to your competition, you could do that survey all over again. You could say, here's two listings. Which of these two listings, show them the number one ranked person and then yours, right? They don't know which one's you and which one's not. And you ask them, which page is more helpful and why? And then you tell them, navigate to this page from your mobile device, right? And then ask them which of these pages is the most helpful and why. What could each of these pages do to improve to be more helpful for you? And then make sure your group of folks that you're targeting are a mix of demographics and in the areas of where you expect to get most of the traffic from. So you can choose that in the settings when you're doing your task. I only want US, maybe I want West Coast or East Coast. I want 50% women, 50% men, or 75% women, 25% men, or heck, 100% women. Who knows, depending on what your target audience is. But yeah, so I think those are the three phases, right? Phase one, let's do some really, really in-depth research. Two, let's launch and measure and monitor and track. And then three, let's really look back at the analytics now and make sure that it's doing everything that we want it to do, and then readjust based on what we're finding and based on additional surveying. It's a marketing play. It's not an advertising play, and it's not a set it, forget it. By the time you do get to that number one position, the person you knocked down isn't going to put their feet up on the desk and clap and be proud of you, right? They're going to want to beat you, and they're going to try to mimic what you're doing.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that
really,
post, your post from 2009, that is, let's say, about tags, that is doing, isn't it tags, something?
Title tag principles.
Okay. Are you going in there and protecting that post?
I wish. This year has been so busy for our company. We're actually rebuilding our website, and we had to make a decision. Do I go in and spend 2 weeks and just try to refresh everything? Or do we hold off until we launch the new website and we focus in on client acquisition? And so we've been focused on our clients, and I haven't had a chance to go in. But normally we have a schedule, and every month, we'd go in and look at anything that hasn't been touched in, say, 90 days to see if there's anything new or better that we can do and add to it. And that process, like I mentioned, is looking at Search Console, looking at analytics, looking at our keyword rankings of that page, and seeing where it's changed and shifted and pivot. And we go through the checklist. That was the other part, was the checklist. I'll send this to you after our show. You can share it with your listeners. It's a single page content audit based on what Google's fed us over the last several years and what they're looking for. And it's broken down into different sections, everything like these expertise, authority, trust signals, some quality rater guidelines, questions that you can ask, and you just go through each one and say, did I solve for this? Did I do this? Did I provide that? And so it's a neat little way to audit a single page of content. It's not quick though. So if the page is really important to you, block out some time.
Yeah. So this is my next question. As I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh my God, this sounds so thorough. And I get it. However, I was just interviewing a dessert blogger, and she puts out a new post once a week. So she's doing recipe development and taking the photos and dealing with social media. Plus she's updating 2 posts a week, in addition. So now you've got this I feel like you could maybe do what you're talking about with one post. It might take you 2 weeks of full-time work. And especially if you've got, people and you're giving them surveys and all of this stuff. So I'm like, what is the 80-20 for this?
Sure. So, and I think a lot of it, honestly, Julie, is just repetition. It's once you've done it a few times, you can get through it pretty quickly, and you can shortcut your way and still get the 20% that you need to really be successful. But I think you need to go through the motions a few times and decide, what's really taking me a lot of time in this that I can cut out and still be able to do better than what I was doing before. And some of our clients like doing one a week, and that works for them. And the one a week is the most amazing content you'll ever see, and $2,000 per page in some of them, to do them. But each one is attracting links and driving traffic, building brand awareness. They're doing remarketing and pulling people back in. One client in particular had 500,000 visits in 18 months by starting a blog and releasing a post every Tuesday. And it worked just like a champ. And they took pictures and video and did everything the right way. And it worked. It got them 500,000 visits. And they're in the auto repair industry. They were able to remarket and sell oil changes all day long.
Wow.
Well, back in 2014 when we needed one every 90 days. But yeah, so I think it's at least going through and knowing what's possible to do the absolute best, and then deciding for yourself where you want to put the time and energy. But going through it, at least you'll know. And until you've done it, you don't know. So go through everything and try all the things, and then decide for yourself what your shortcut checklist is going to be and how much time you want to invest in doing it. Because like you said, you could spend 2 whole weeks doing a post if you wanted to, or you could spend a day and still do a pretty darn good job and still get a decent chunk of the share of voice for the keywords that you're going after.
I wanted to take a short break because I know I have been talking so much about digital products. And people keep coming to me and saying, yeah, okay, I hear you, I get it, but I don't know what to create. Where do I start? Well, take my new digital product personality quiz, and it will show you what type of digital product you should create first. Then I've got a simple worksheet where you can start to come up with your product idea. Head to milotree.com/quiz. And when you get your results and you come up with your product, reach out to me. I would love to hear what it is. And now back to the show. One thing I hear you saying, and I was just at another conference and there was somebody talking about SEO, and I thought this was really interesting. And you're saying the same thing, which is don't doubt Google. So for example, there's a keyword you want to rank for. Let's say, again, we'll use, let's say you're like a knitting blogger, right? And you have a way, somebody told you, structure your blog post this way. Because you've heard it, who knows, you're in Facebook groups, you even had like an SEO consult and they said, do it this way. Sure. And then you put that keyword into Google and you start looking at those top posts. There's a reason those top posts are ranking. You will never know exactly what Google is seeing. So therefore, it's rather than having your heuristic that you're using, go use Google. Because nobody, like even the Google engineers don't necessarily know why these posts are ranking.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Right? Isn't that, I mean, so it's like, okay, go figure out, like, don't even necessarily, you don't have to figure it out exactly.
I just say, don't reinvent the wheel.
Right. But like mirror what they are doing because something is working for these posts.
Yeah.
And so you want to kind of take as many of those elements into your own post. And it's not because some SEO gave you some template of how to write your post. Every post is kind of different. So this person was saying, well, if, for example, they're structuring it with these kinds of H2s or this kind of, they're putting the FAQ at the bottom of the post, or they're putting it at the top of the post, or their video is here, or they don't have a video, like mirror what's working.
Yeah. And I think you can run some tests too. I mean, tools like Hotjar, you can move some of the elements around and see how users are interacting with your page. And if they tend to stay on the page a little bit longer by having the video at the top, then put the video at the top. If they tend to like to see the short summary at the top and not have to scroll to see it, do the same. I think running some of those user tests can really help your conversion rates, reduce your bounce back to Google rates, which ultimately affects search behavior signals. But the other challenge I see too a lot of times is that people don't look at the search results at all, not even once. And they'll be way out in left field in terms of what Google's been displaying for a given search term. So I think you're almost doing a discredit to your content by at least not looking at what Google seems to be thinking users want. And a lot of it's based on click data and search data. It's not just based on the word you want to appear for, but it's based on, the types of content that's already displaying. And that's two opportunities, right? Opportunity one is to make sure that you're following the same model as the ones that are already ranking well, but just doing a better job and being more unique in what you're delivering. The second part is it gives you the opportunity to explore the types of content that Google's showing. Maybe they've got a video carousel. Maybe they've got an image carousel and images at the top. Maybe, maybe there's other elements of the page that are new that Google just introduced that we're trying to figure out. Maybe there's a local map. So by understanding those things, we can optimize the media to also appear in those areas and get more of that search real estate. So many people are just really myopic on the blue link, black text in the search results. But what if I had an ad and then I had a blue link and black text and then a video and then an image? I mean, I'd have 20 to 25% of the real estate on the first page of Google. So I think looking at all those different elements and making sure that I'm not just optimizing my page to show up with a blue link and black text, but also that the media that's included in that content
could fit,
is optimized to appear in
right,
those
so that
results
Google could just snag it and put it in the results. Okay, this is like mind-blowing for me and hopefully my audience, because I think that we have blinders on and just go content, and we'll put some keywords in there and optimize it for Google. And what I hear you saying is you got to get much more closely tied to Google. to what Google is serving up, that should
Right.
be an enormous piece of what you're creating.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you want to join the family for those keywords, like the Google family in terms of the results and stuff,
I
rather
like that
than like
analogy.
Google's
Yeah.
living on one end, like one side of my content's on another, and I'm hoping Google finds it. It's like, no, we're going to go knock on the door, come in and like join that family for that keyword result.
That's a great way of putting it. I like that approach too, and it makes sense because you're not mystified as to what do I need to create to show up. You just look at what's already showing up, and I think the biggest takeaway more than anything else is you're studying those pages and you're documenting all of the intents that the content's solving, that the subheadings and subheadings are solving for. Enables you to create the page that solves for all of those different intents, not just for the intents that are being solved by the guy that's in position one, but also the intents of all of the pages that appear on page one. So hopefully you can have the most helpful page by studying those results and not just kind of coming up with your own.
Yeah. I think that is super. Okay. So in terms of helpful content, do you feel like we've covered that? Because then I want to get into.
I think we crushed helpful content. I hope the biggest reminder on this one is that they've emphasized the search behavior signals more than they ever have in the past. So
More than
really think about
quality.
that. If they have to search again and we
You're-
didn't provide a satisfying experience to solve for their intent, then we probably won't have longevity in the keyword rankings.
Okay. Now let's talk about AI writing tools, because I feel like that has exploded onto the scene and I hear it's controversial. So could
It's
you
very controversial.
give me your take on, can I be using Jasper, Copy AI, any of these tools that are going to help me, let's say, face a blank page? In fact, at this conference I was at, a couple women said, it's easier to just have this tool because it's intimidating when I have to I've done all this stuff to, let's say, create this craft, create this recipe, create this guide, and now I got to go write stuff.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's intimidating for sure.
What is your thought about it? How does Google see it? And what's like the real answer, if there is a real answer?
Well, they've made it clear in their article, their post about the helpful content update that a site shouldn't be using a massive amount of automated content creation. And they didn't say you couldn't use automated content. They just said don't use a lot of it. And I think that should inspire content writers when they want to start using some of these tools, if nothing else for inspiration. A lot of the conversations I'm hearing right now in search is that if you use one of these tools and you put in a topic and say, just create the whole thing for me, as you get to the bottom of that thing that they created for you, it starts to get a little bit weird. It doesn't read well, and it can get really quirky. But for those people who do a paragraph at a time, give me a paragraph about this topic. Ooh, that's a really good paragraph. And you take a string from it, you do a search in the search results to see if that string exists in Google, because maybe somebody else is using the same automation tool. Most of the time, you'll find that it's not. The automation's creating unique stuff for you.
So wait, I need to
it.
stop you here. Explain what you just said. So the fear is, so I've heard initially the way that these tools worked is you'd say, I want to go learn about fitness trackers. So please write me something about fitness trackers. And it would go into the bowels of the internet and pull a variety of snippets of content and put them all together and deliver that. And now I've heard, though, that content writing tools have gotten much better, and you're not necessarily going to find that they're actually able to write.
In some cases. So here's the vision that I had that scared me is what if there's 100 food bloggers, and I know there's more than that. Yes. Let's say there's 100 food bloggers that are all using Jasper, and they all say strawberry shortcake recipe, right, or something like that, or how to make a strawberry shortcake. They put that, and 100 of them put that into the same tool, and the tool's got to go out and do its magic. What happens if it spits out the same thing for all 100 of those food bloggers? Google's only going to choose, the one page that that was the source originator. So basically, it's a race to see who can use these tools to create the content first, if indeed it's doing that and not randomizing it. Because I've seen instances where we've done the same thing, 2 different users in the same word, and we actually got back different content, slightly different content. And that was exciting. But at some point, you're going to run out of derivatives and you're going to run out of, of similar words. And it's going to get very, very, very redundant, I think. So I think that's the challenge number one, is if AI doesn't do its job in terms of making sure that we're all getting unique suggestions, 100 food bloggers putting in the same search term, hoping to get 100 different pages. And that's why I mentioned taking a string of that text. When they do say, here's the content, you put it into Google and make sure it's not.
So just like take like a snippet of the text, like one line of the
words,
text, 6 words,
6 words and quotes, and put it out there in quotes, that in 6 quotes. Words. Most of the time, I haven't seen it being used. It's actually working. It's doing its thing. But paragraph by paragraph, if you do it as one full page, it starts to get really weird. You're letting it kind of go off on its own. But if you do it in a controlled manner where you're doing a paragraph at a time, it's more efficient. You do get some really helpful information. But that solves for one challenge, not for both. And what's going to happen is if we all use these automation tools over and over and over again, we start to lose the narrative and the voice of our brand. We're letting computers talk to our customers instead of us. We lose the charisma and the character that defines who we are as a brand. We lose the storytelling. All of that, that brand voice goes away. And my fear is that, we get addicted to it and we're so focused on trying to drive traffic and make money that we forget why we're doing business in the first place and who we are as a business. And so I encourage everybody, draw inspiration from these tools in a controlled manner, but rewrite it and put it in your brand voice, put character to it. I know what writer's block feels like. I'm an author. I've written textbooks. I know it's hard. I've sat there and stared at a screen for 2 hours, hating myself. I know what it feels like. So feel free, jump out and play with these tools. But if for nothing else, to draw inspiration, to get you motivated and maybe even angry enough that it inspires your brain to kick into gear and write your own stuff.
Okay. So if I were to use one of these tools and it gives me a pretty good paragraph, could I go in and just make some tweaks and maybe add an extra sentence? Like, is that enough? I mean, this is a hard question to ask you.
What do you have to lose? I say test it, try it. I've seen many cases where it's worked really well, but only do it because you're challenged and not being able to do it, right? Don't do it as a way to, to automate your process. Do it as a way to inspire the process. I don't know that I would, because you might get addicted to it, and before you know it, you're asking them to write full pages for you and you're getting really lazy. And at some point, Google's going to say, wow, you're using a lot of automated content writing and I don't see a lot of character and faults, right? Wasn't that in Matrix that the challenge that the computer had with humans is that we had faults and that we were imperfect? So wouldn't a computer be able to figure out that our content's it's perfect and not imperfect and not written by humans? So I don't know. Just think about it.
That's interesting. Okay. Before I let you go, I have one last question. What do you think of this strategy? Okay. So let's say, for Catch My Party, gosh, I want to say we have 1,500 blog posts. And so, okay. And again, I understand 80-20, like I'm just really looking at the top blog posts, but there are a lot. Sure. But I want to update them. Some of them are old. Like I just saw a post that like now is not ranking. It's from 2017.
Okay.
But it's overwhelming to think I'm going to go back to all the posts, let's say, and start updating them. Can I run an experiment where I make small tweaks to some old posts and then monitor them, where I'm just literally going into each post for 10 minutes and just, I don't know, updating, maybe maybe it needs better H2s. I would update the date. Maybe I didn't give an attribute to the photos, whatever it is, like alt text. And I do this 10 minutes and I do 10 posts. Can I then watch those posts, see which ones start to potentially gain traffic, and traction, and then go back into those posts, like the ones that are, that one got some, a little bit of a lift, and then rework, like use that as a way to gain information on which direction I should go?
I don't see why not. I've seen really successful rewrites of old content. OSMED conferences, for example, in Australia, did an amazing job going back and reviving old content, and it worked really well for them. But I want to encourage everybody to remember that Google and other search engines think in patterns. And if you've had a page that's been out there, or I don't know, like my 2009 page, it's been out there for, a decade, and it's a pattern where over 10 years worth of data has showed them that that page deserves to be 3 and not number 1. Making some tweaks means it's now got to see how users are responding to those changes. And based on 10 years, if I've got 1 month compared to 10 years, the math doesn't weigh in there. It might be appropriate to take some of those really older pages and just create something new and redirect that old page to the new page. I think that sometimes is the best way to address, trying to see a major lift in something. If there's that much history on a page, you can try to give it a little bit of a lift. So you can deep link to it a little bit, but you're still combating years and years and years of history.
Where Google's saying we
Yeah.
don't like this post.
Right. Or this wasn't as helpful as another page that's in the search results. So
Got
to
it.
me, it's about the history of a URL. And we know that Google has a history of that URL. So if it's from 2017, I'd revive it for sure. My 2009 post, I'm going to rewrite it.
Okay, got it. But do you think, though, if I run this experiment and I've got 10 posts from 2017, that I
Sure.
could see stuff like reconnect
Oh, instantly.
in Google's eyes?
Absolutely. They're so fast too with updating. What you would do, and here's the process if you really want to see this work, after you've done your tweaks and your changes, add a link to the body of the homepage of your website. Google finds that page to be the one that carries the most page rank. It's going to say, wow, that page must be important because you put it on an important page on your website. It's going to pass that page rank to that post, revive it quite a bit, hopefully, and then test it in the search results and see how it now performs. So you can expedite the process of seeing how that page is going to do by deep linking to it from the homepage, and maybe even from some other pages within the website, maybe even from some external websites that have similar content that would be willing to share it. Right, just bring it back to life. And I've seen that happen, and it worked like a champ for OSMED, and it could work for you.
Okay. Well, this has been like kind of mind-blowing just in terms of the way that I would say for me, it is get really close to Google.
I love that. That's perfect way of putting it.
Awesome. Okay. Steve, if people want to learn more about you, reach out to you, see what you're doing, get some of these guides, and I will link to them to anything you send me, where should people go?
Oh, I'm SEO Steve everywhere. So find me on the Twitter, the Facebook. We have to put the in front of it now because it's all formal. So I'm everywhere. And if you want to talk to anyone on my team, if I'm not responding quick enough, we're just Wiideman, Wiideman. And same thing, we love to help businesses. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for the small businesses. So don't ever feel like, oh, you only work with big accounts, you're not going to help me. I'd be happy to help and provide some free advice and get you over into, someone's hands who can take care of you. So we're here to help, and, please hit us up.
All right, Steve, I'm going to ask you to come back at some point on the podcast. Would you do
it?
I'd
love that. It'd be so much fun.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show again.
Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it, Jillian.
I hope you guys like this episode. I really like the way Steve is able to communicate SEO and make it feel approachable. For me, 2 big takeaways. Yes, AI tools are here and we are using them, but be very mindful of how you incorporate them in your content. And 2, get extra close to Google. It's not just you writing your content and then giving it to Google and kind of praying. It is you getting in there and seeing how Google is responding to it and to similar content, and really studying the Google search results so that you can win. 2 reminders before I go. If you want to sell digital products in 2023, get on my special email list to find out what our Black Friday special for MiloTree Cart is all about. Seriously, you don't want to miss this. Go to milotree.com/Black Friday special. And 2, if you don't know where to start, creating that first digital product so you can launch your digital product empire, take my personality quiz by going to milotree.com/quiz. So go do those two things, and then I will see you here again next week.